Welcome, everybody, to another week of Where's Your Focus podcast. I am Linda.
And I'm Karen.
And today we are discussing reincarnation. But before that, let's hear about what's going on with the Shumanns Residents this week.
Yeah, well, let's see. For anybody who's not aware, we use two sites to look and see what's going on with the Shumanns Residents, and that's disclosurenews.it and heartmath.org. The HeartMath has 7 places. So the first 6 are California, Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, Alberta, and New Zealand. Last week we had spikes in those areas. This week, not so much. All of the powers that are put in right now are around between a half and 3/4 of what they were in the spike last week. And all the graphs are kind of just going like this. There's no big spikes this week at all, which kind of surprised me a little bit. When we look at the 7th one, South Africa, that's the one that's been flat. And I did go back because I wasn't sure how long it had been flat. And I checked back in one of the notes where we had done blockages, the 5th episode. Oh, actually, no, it was before that. I think it was the 2nd episode, healing, on December the 9th. We had seen that it was gone flat. Well, last week it hit a spike because we were both really surprised, right, Linda, that it hit a spike of 450 hertz. Now, was it? No, sorry, that was another one. It had hit a spike of 340, a power of 340. It just went like in one day, it went from nothing right up to 340. And that's kind of been really spiking and coming down a little bit today. Well, not today because February the 8th is the last time on HeartMath that we see. And their highest was 299.5. But now on February the 5th, it had hit 616, a power of 616. So Saudi Arabia is the one now that's the highest. Okay, the rest are really kind of not doing much. On Disclosure News in Italy and Russia, last week, Italy had peaked at 450 hertz. That was on January the 30th. Today, it's showing a power of 16, but there was a peak of 600 hertz. So Saudi Arabia and Italy, I'm not quite sure what's happening, but that's where the spikes seem to be hitting. Now, the other thing that we had happen was there was a G1 class storm, right? A geomagnetic storm that hit us on the night of the 6th, which was Saturday night. So there was a coronal hole in the sun, and it caused the high-speed stream of solar winds, which was the geomagnetic force. And what happened was there was earthquakes around the equator, that one that hit 6.3 and one that hit 6.0. And I don't know if you saw any of the pictures of the auroras or the northern lights in Alberta on Saturday night. Amazing. They were the whole sky was this kind of blue-green, absolutely beautiful. And I did watch another couple of videos on it, and I'm just trying to see, I don't remember the names of the videos now I watched, but they showed the whole globe and how it was the northern lights. They call them the northern lights, but they were in the North Pole and the South Pole. These winds, right? These high stream winds, solar winds. So yeah, so that was a big thing. I don't know about you, but Saturday night I did not sleep. Sunday I had a terrible Sunday evening. I guess my headache started right up until this morning. I had a headache, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, if that's what's going on with the Shumanns Residents, what's happening. But there's people that are talking about ringing in the ears the weekend and all of that stuff that's going on again, right? So that's where we are this week with the Shumanns Residents and the class 1 storm that we're experiencing. So what's going on with the moon?
Okay, well, the moon, we are going into a new moon. We are 1 day away. So the new moon energy is all about turning your energy inward and evaluating and coming up with new goals and different things, like just the planning process, right? So the last 3 days we've been in Capricorn, which is, oh, Patricia's saying that she had headaches too.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah.
the last 3 days was about tying up loose ends on, because every moon cycle, this is how it works, right? So we start in the new moon, going through and planning, then we start to put things into action. Full moon is about full action, and then coming down, we're tying up those loose ends on that action, right? So the Capricorn was just, we were just finishing Capricorn of tying up those loose ends. So this is all about gathering, finishing up stuff is what the Capricorn is all about too. So
Right.
you may have been working really outwardly the last few days and kind of neglecting a little bit of the private life and private close relationships, but that's going to shift now. Once we get into the new moon and we get into the Aquarius is much more about personal relationships, and especially like that significant other, right? So I'm seeing a lot of posts online, people talking about, why am I feeling all these weird things towards my partner? I don't usually feel this way. This is why we're going into this, a space where we're really starting to evaluate, is this a partner for me? Is this the right person? And also the Aquarius is all about, it's a planning project, so it's like you're getting a double whammy, right? So the Aquarius likes to plan, likes to have these dreamy ideas and stuff like that. So we're also seeing that in this new moon phase, so we might have even more of that dreamy aspect of, oh, I can accomplish this and I can do that kind of idea. And on Saturday we're moving into Pisces. And in this, we're going to see more courageous feelings of stepping into something that we've wanted to do for a while. So more action and more passion towards making those things happen. And for that time, we may not be able to be too in touch with our instincts as well as we have been in the past.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So, and I mean, we've talked about how February is going to be a rocky road.
It's gonna be a rocky road.
It's going to, it's a month for changes anyway. And that's what Linda and I were saying just before we started, was what's going to happen over the course of the next 2 months in our world, I wonder. So, yeah, so that's pretty exciting. But today, so now we've already done, we're kind of on a roll here, right? We're kind of moving in a little wheel. So we've done death, we've done afterlife. And now today we're moving into what the next step is, which is reincarnation. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the planning stages of the next life, and how those plans are affected by karma, as well as what role our guides play into all of this reincarnation, the decisions we have to make, and why we don't remember our past lives when we do incarnate back here on earth. Why don't we remember, oh my goodness, why don't we remember anything, right, from the past? So those are all the discussions we're going to have today. But what I'd like to start about first is I didn't listen to it, I read it, an interview by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who's a medical doctor in Virginia. And he did an interview with Omni magazine back in 1988. And, we know that reincarnation happens because of the hypnosis, right? The past life regression and all of that we go through. We've seen that. But what this Dr. Stevenson did, he dedicated his whole life to the memories of children. Okay. And so he's got over 3,000 cases of children who remember past lives. So even the skeptics who say, oh, hypnosis, I don't believe in that, that's just stories being made up or whatever. But how can a child between 3 and 5 years old know specific details of what's happened in a previous life? They're able to talk about the people that they loved in that life. They're able to say where they lived, or and so many different things, so many different details of a past life that a child between 3 and 5 years old would not know, right? And so even the skeptics are now saying that is the best scientific proof that we can get of reincarnation, right?
Yeah, and I love what these scientists are doing is they're taking, like, they do the research on the people that these kids are saying that they are, and they go to these kids and they say, okay, they have real pictures from that person's life and fake pictures, and the accuracy of choosing the real pictures is unbelievable.
Yep, exactly. So, when you see that kind of documentation, when you see that kind of proof, that's not just even for people who believe in hypnosis, that's great. We know already, but people who don't believe in hypnosis, how can you question that?
Yeah.
How can you question it? Right? So we know that hypnosis, that reincarnation exists. It just does. It just does.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, though, is we're going to get into now the karma of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and in Sanskrit, karma means job or action. So it's it refers to every action has a reaction.
That's right.
Right? So Linda, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit now to go into karma.
So we develop karma in many different aspects of our lives. Okay. So almost every aspect of our lives has a karma. So your relationships has karma, your work life has karma, your spirituality has karma. You have like your connection to the spirit world is also a karma. So everything has a specific type of karma within it. And so when we're working on these planning stages, we're actually looking at the karma that we've developed in all these different ways. And we develop good karma and we develop bad karma. And sometimes if we've done something that has, and this is just a scenario, but if we've done something that is very drastic and the people around us has had to endure or gone through something because of something that we've done along those lines, that is a very extreme karma lesson that you have to go back into. And a lot of times too, we see karma being like, say you're a mother to your daughter this time. Well, next time you might be a grandmother or a daughter to her. And this is something else part of the karma, so that you learn all aspects of that type of relationship so you can really get a rounded view of what there is to learn within that specific teaching.
Right. So in the afterlife, this is what we're doing. We're doing the life review, and we're going through all of what happened and the karma that's around it, that's surrounding that in the afterlife with the life review, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we're doing the planning stages too, we have so many different guides and levels of beings that are helping us to understand the consequences of a lot of our actions and the things, the decisions that we make and the decisions that we're making in the planning process, and how that looks like in the future. And a lot of times when we say, okay, I'd like to add this in or that event into my life, our guides are showing us, okay, if you do that, these are the possibilities of the outcomes. And so we're making these choices as we're doing this planning process before we come down.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's important to know too that there are two types of guides that guide us during this time. Okay. So one type of guide is a guide that is a very high energy, very evolved being that doesn't incarnate. Okay. So they will be helping us during this time. And the other type of guide that we'll have is the type of guide who does incarnate. So they're actually trying to evolve as well with us, so that, you know, the first one, you might refer to your first guide as your guardian angel, whereas your second guides may be your ancestors or something to that effect, right?
Yeah. And that's another thing that as soon as the embryo starts to form in the mom, we have silver cords that attach the physical being to the spirit, and we're actually able to travel through this so that we can start to pick up a lot of the vibrations of the family and the energy of the family that we're entering into, and that is also part of the planning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So basically what happens is, once we've gone through our life review and everything, to start planning, I mean, we don't know how long it takes. It could take hundreds of years, right? Because we have all these soul contracts to put into place. We have to go to the elders. We have to verify that the soul contracts are okay and that they're going to allow us to do whatever it is we want to do, what lessons we want to learn, what our mission is here on earth. And at that point, then we have to start making the decisions as to where we want to go, who we want to be, who our family is going to be. We choose everything during that time, right? And that's even before we are that embryo. Well, we're not that, well, we are that embryo before the spirit goes into the embryo, I guess I'm trying to say. So, and during that time of the first trimester, and this for me explained a lot about miscarriages and different things, how that can happen, is right up until that point, actually right until the birth of the child, but right up to then, we have the choice to still say yes or no. We're going to come or we're not going to come in that particular body. But in that first trimester is when all the programming starts to come, and Linda refers to it as a soul chip and how it plugs in. But I guess it's programming in a way, because you're programming that body, you're programming everything about that body, the energy centers, the aura, the everything has to be programmed into that. So it's not a small thing to do, to plan to come back here, right?
It's not. It is a lot. But one thing I will say is, and I've seen this trend quite a bit, depending on the life that you lived previously and the amount of regeneration it takes the spirit to recollect itself, depending on the amount of suffering that you've done. It's an average of 9 years between.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you've gone through a very violent death,
Yes.
That can be completely different. That can be just a couple of weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending.
Yeah, if you go through a very violent death, a sudden violent death, and you're disoriented, you don't know, like a lot of times when that happens, you don't know that you've crossed over. You kind of get trapped in this like repeating of, and we've talked about that in the previous, right?
That's
and
right. Yeah.
that can take more time until you become aware. Then you go back into the cleansing process. Then you're going back into the pre-planning, and it just takes time.
Exactly. So with the average, and I mean, we can talk about averages and we can say anything that we want to say. Basically, it's coming from what we've watched, right? And what we've seen and what we've heard, because again, we don't have any experience with it. So we're just going by what other people, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I've listened to these children quite a bit, a few of these children saying, okay, I know I was this person, and 9 years seems to be a trend. I know that there was exactly 9 years in between one of my lives. And so then that I started looking at others and finding that same trend. And that's why I'm saying, but it's not a constant. I don't know for sure if it's 9 years, but 9 years makes sense. That's a full cycle.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've gone through a lot too, and I've not seen that. So it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say. It depends on who you listen to again. And yeah. So, but that's interesting though. 9 years.
It is 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you look at the life number 9,
that's your completion cycle.
That's your completion cycle. So it does make sense, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah.
Okay, so and we can also at certain points have a walk-in, right? So if we've done the planning and we've done all of this and then something happens and we don't end up following through, another soul can step in to that area and fulfill those shoes and fulfill that that's being.
Yeah. Linda, let's just go back for a minute because I wanted to tell a little story. I had a client who had come in and we talked about, how you can change your mind right up until the last point when you're an embryo in your mom's belly, right? And I had this client who came in and I had done a tuning fork session on her. And it was really interesting because when I got to her conception, there was a lot of hesitancy there. There was a lot of what felt like, I don't know if I want to go. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. And that's the kind of energy that was surrounding the conception and the ingestion period of when her mom was pregnant. And I know I probably said before, but I kind of get these, with the energy that I feel, it kind of gives me a story that kind of comes in to my head. And the story that I got, and it came through very quickly and very accurately, that said, you weren't sure. You weren't sure if you were going to come. And the next thing that came through was things were not what you had planned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the next thing that came through was there's a difference, that the mother was the mother you chose, but the father is not the father you've chosen. And for whatever reason, now you have to decide whether you still want to go or not. And it was really, it was really emotional because this client had not felt a big emotional, I shouldn't say that, had not been really, really close to her father all of her lifetime, right? So, and she always knew that there was something. This is a very, very spiritual client who was in, and she always knew there was something, but she didn't know about this. And so I asked her, I said, when you go home, check with your mom and see if your mom didn't have somebody before that they had plans on getting married or having children or whatever. And because in this energy that I was feeling, she was supposed to be the first child of this mom and dad that she had chosen. And this is not what the energy felt like anymore. So when she came back, she said that her mother had actually been, her mom's fiance had actually been killed tragically in a car accident, or in an accident. I don't quote me that it was a car accident, I'm not sure, but it was in an accident and he died. And they were engaged to be married. So she was supposed to be the first child of that couple. But because of what had happened, and that was a contract that she had made with them, right? But because of what had happened, now she had to decide whether she was still going to come and have a different father and still live it out. And it took her a time to decide that, because in this lifetime, she was now the second child and no longer the first child. So that's pretty interesting,
Yeah, that's amazing.
right?
I love
It's
that
and
story.
yeah, so it's the decisions that we have to make are not just the decisions of the karma and everything that goes with the lifetimes that we've got to go through and bring that energy balance back, um, to be balanced again. It's there's other things that can happen that we have to make decisions on quickly, and that's just an example of one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So sorry, Linda, that popped into my head and I had to go back and just let you guys know about that. I just thought it was interesting, right?
And that would be an example of somebody who would walk into her place if she wasn't, didn't want to continue going forth with that plan. Somebody could walk in and take that plan over for her.
Right. And at that point, in the first trimester, there could have been a miscarriage
Mhm.
and her given a chance to come back another time, or somebody else come in. And the walk-ins can actually happen during the lifetime.
Yes.
I've actually had another client on the table. And when I got to the client's energy of around the age of 5 and 6, there was a completely switch. It was just a complete switch of energy. And again, it was like, okay, this is not the same. This is not the same energy anymore. This is a walk-in now. And with walk-ins, there's oftentimes with walk-ins, they feel differently. They feel how can I, like they don't belong in a lot of times.
Yeah.
And this client is exactly what he felt. He felt like, and that was one of the questions I asked, like, do you feel like, and he said, yeah, I felt like that since I can remember.
Yeah.
So
I
that
have a
again
client that's
was
very similar. She had a walk-in around the age of just before turning 1, but her whole life, she just didn't feel like it was hers, that she was, you know, like not fit. It's not that she didn't fit in. It's just that she didn't feel connected to the people, you know, like that she was isolated in some way. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's fascinating, really, when
Mhm.
you hear and when you experience those kind of sessions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting. Yeah.
It very much is.
So our goal with planning the lifetime is to release those karmic attachments,
That's right.
right? And so that's what we're trying to do when we're doing the planning, and the guides are helping us with the planning, is to release those karmic attachments.
And it's so amazing when you see people who have the physical mind and the physical body that has come to serve the higher self, because not everybody gets that. And I talk about this a lot. Not everybody gets a mind and a body that's here to serve the higher self. And when you are that, you move through karma so much quicker because you are learning how to learn and grow and use karma to your benefit.
Exactly.
So your service to the world heightens, and you're bringing your true purpose of what you were supposed to come here to do to the people, which is great for your karma.
Exactly. And that explains too, Linda, the little bit of a difference that there is when you come to earth as a light worker and when you come not as a light worker. When you're coming not as a light worker, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
It's just that you're here to work on your personal evolvement, right? It's all personal. When you come as a light worker, you're doing the personal work as well, very much so, but in service to others. That in service to others is always there. So when you're doing the planning, that always comes into effect as with regards to the decisions that you're going to make. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then free will. We have to keep free will in mind, right?
Yep, and that's right. We could have the higher self could have all of these great plans and ideas about how this life is going to go, and then once everything starts to get into play, it doesn't exactly go the way that you imagined or planned it out to go, and that's because again, once the life is in play, it depends on the physical mind and the physical body that it's been born into.
Mhm.
Sometimes we think that it's going to turn out a certain way, and then once it all happens, it just doesn't go that way. Um,
Exactly.
and
And
there's,
sometimes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's not. And a lot of times you're going to hear higher self. And I'm sure a lot of you know higher self. And you're also going to hear lower self. And that doesn't mean that lower self is a bad thing. The lower self is just the body and the mind, right?
Yeah,
And the higher self then goes into the higher self never forgets.
the higher self is no, the higher self is definitely an interesting being when you look at the whole part of everything, especially when you think about the fact that it's only operating 30 to 40% of itself into what we're actually doing.
So
And it's playing many other roles at the same time.
that's
Uh,
right.
so you know, it's an interesting idea when you think about we're only getting like 30 to 40% of that higher self's attention.
That's right. That's right. And sometimes that's overwhelming.
Yeah, sometimes that can be a lot.
That can be a lot. But and that's the other thing, right? We're never, because we talked about this veil of forgiveness, the veil of forgetfulness, right? How when we're reincarnated and we don't remember our past lives because there's this veil of forgetfulness over the top of us. And the reason being is because if we remembered everything, then our experience here would be completely different. We wouldn't be making the same decisions as that what we're making now with our free will, right? Okay. So with forgetting everything and coming back to earth, then it gives us a diversity of experiences, because now we don't remember what we've already experienced. We don't remember anything from the past. So the decisions we make are based on not knowing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but also we come from a place of oneness where there is no separation. And we are not able to remember that here for a reason, because it's the return to the oneness that's the whole part of, what a human experience is. Sorry, Karen, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. It'll come back. Oh my goodness, it's gone. Yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought.
But yeah, that's the whole thing about forgetting, is that, if we remembered all of it, we wouldn't be here we wouldn't be here trying to grasp at the truth anymore. We would have full truth. We would have that connection to oneness. And it's when we forget all of that, that we are given that sense of free will.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about evolving.
It's all about
evolving. If we didn't forget and we came back, we're not going to evolve because we remember everything. Not remembering, then we're able to make the experiences different and be able to evolve more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with awareness and evolution, those little pieces, not all, you're never going to remember all of the past lives that you ever lived. You only need to remember pieces of it that help your physical mind now to think and act on higher levels. That's what evolution is all about. That's why we only remember bits and pieces. We only need bits and pieces. We don't need it all.
Yeah. And that veil, depending on where you are in your evolution, it can be thinner or thicker, right? And then we're not going to remember anything until our soul is ready to remember it, until our soul is ready to handle it. And that's why you might get half of a past life experience, and then 6 months later you might remember the other half, right? It just depends on when you're ready, when you've evolved enough to be ready to remember and what that's going to do. So because there's trauma there, and it's all about healing that trauma.
Well, and really technically, like I said, you're never going to remember all of the aspects of the other people that you've been. There's no reason, because the person that you are today is an evolutionary product of who you've been.
Absolutely.
And you don't need that information, but there may be pieces inside those that will help you today to understand deeper aspects of yourself and be able to move on these new levels and act on these new levels. And that's the whole point, right? That's why we don't remember, because we don't need to. You're already the product of everything you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm still trying to think of what I was going to say, and it's completely gone. My goodness. Right.
So they say that you're bound to the body at first breath. So as soon as the body takes the breath, then the spirit is not able to travel so freely between the body and the higher self. Now, there are people who have deeper abilities in this area, so they're able to do more astral travel than others. But then they've developed those skills, right, over the course of their experiences on the planet.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Actually, I have a friend of mine who can astral travel every night if she wanted to.
Mhm.
She's very calm, very evolved, very evolved. And it's amazing that yeah. Anyway, she flies, she goes over and under the wires, and she can go as low as she wants, as high as she wants, anywhere. It's like, really? How do I want to do that? I've astral traveled a few times, but it's not, for me, it's not at will. It just happens. And I don't know how it happens. I would love to be able to do it at will, like she
Mhm.
can. That would be amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I think that that's amazing too, as being able to astral travel. I do not, I have this feeling like when I was younger, it's not, I don't have it these days, but if I was in a dark room, I couldn't feel my body. I would just feel this like expansive,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
like, and it was fine until I hit a certain age, and then it wasn't fine anymore. It was started to intimidate and scare me.
Right.
And so I had to find ways to, like, I don't know if it was like lock myself in or whatever.
Curious. How old were you when it started to scare you? Do you remember?
I was probably about 11 or 12 years old.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
had an experience. I had an experience where we used to have a pool in my backyard, and we would see how long we could stay underwater, right? So it was a big competition. So I would do it by myself. And I was in the pool and I was under there for a long time. And all of a sudden I had this feeling that I took this big breath of fresh air right under the water.
Wow.
And that was around the same time. And that's when that feeling started to scare me.
Okay.
It was around like I had a bunch of different experiences all around that time. And that's when that feeling started to really intimidate me, that feeling of expansiveness, like, yeah, I definitely didn't have anybody around to help me foster that at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we need to make it stop.
It's funny though, you say that, but it's true, right? Like back then, there was hardly anybody around that you could talk to. Today, it's a lot easier on children because there's a lot of children that are way more awake now than when we were children. Well, when I was a child, right?
Absolutely. Like I can honestly say the conversation that I have with my daughter, they were not conversations I had with my mom.
Like,
Like,
not even close, right?
no, we talk a lot about death. A lot about death.
Yeah.
She is really curious about that. So
Okay.
we talked a lot about that, even young, right? Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
some
So
of
where
the,
else have we?
yeah, so when some of the things that we do plan change too, according to where we are in our evolutionary process. So some of the plans that we put into place, they don't always stay the same according to what we actually become when we turn into our physical selves, right? So some of the choices that we make, some of the ways that we evolve in the way that we're thinking can change some of the things that are meant to happen in our line. Some of the people that we're meant to meet and all of that stuff can change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do, I mean, when we sleep is when our soul can leave and kind of travel, right? At that time, contracts can be changed.
Oh, yes.
So it, let me see if I can explain. Like in one day, things in your whole life can change like that.
Yep.
And that can be a sign that a contract has changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's yeah, it's pretty neat.
And another thing I came across that I thought was really cool is how we choose our appearances. So
Oh
our
yes.
appearances are actually chosen by the way it invokes different feelings in the people that we're going to be connected to. I thought that was really cool.
It's really, really interesting. We choose everything. We really
We choose
choose everything from our appearance to our, everything, everything. What our talents are going to be, what everything.
So Patricia Callahan, she's saying, I used to have dreams where I was swimming underwater and I couldn't understand why I was not able to breathe underwater. Then I found out that I was a mermaid in a past life. Yes, I was too.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool, eh?
Yeah, I was too. And I actually have like my connection to my daughter and my daughter's dad is all from that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Because we
interesting.
talked about that last week, right? The different soul connections that we have, our soul contracts, and the different types of communities and families, soul families that we have. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
so interesting.
It really is interesting. Kim is saying keeping positive is the key. Remain grounding, going back to basics. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so we talked about the importance of service to others and personal learning through that. Oh, another thing that I thought was really cool too was the religious things that we get born into.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is according to some of the lessons or some of the deeper things that you need to take from that so that you start to make choices along those lines and move down that certain path that your higher self would like you to choose. I think that that's really cool.
It is cool. And it's cool to know too that different religions hold different beliefs regarding reincarnation. The majority of religions though do believe in reincarnation. I don't know if I should say the majority, but a lot believe in reincarnation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that was a really interesting way to, because, religion is a large part and it's becoming less and less. I find spirituality is becoming more of the focus. So, more of our children are being born into you choose your path, you choose your beliefs, right? And I truly like that aspect of things. But I thought it was really interesting how, we could even look at the religious aspects of certain religions and how we can be born into that culture to hopefully foster the types of decisions the higher self wants to make and in these evolutionary processes that it's going for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is. It's so amazing.
I'm just enthralled with it. I like with the whole death, afterlife, and reincarnation. That whole part of the cycle, right, is just so fascinating for me. And I know it is for a lot of people.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that just want to sit and listen and read and I mean, we won't know, of course, until we actually go through it, and then when we come back, we're not going to know again. So.
Exactly. We got to relearn everything.
We got to relearn everything. Well, from walking to talking to everything, right? So
Yeah.
so cool. And you talk about walk-ins, and a lot of times, well, I don't know about a lot of times, but in some cases, walk-ins, they don't want to come back as a child, as an infant. They don't want to have to go through all that. So they decide that they want to come back, and it's a soul contract with that person. Okay, I'm going to do the beginning part of that life, and you can do the end part of that life or the mid part of that life or whatever, right? So it's yeah, it's amazing the things that we can choose.
It is amazing the things we can choose. Like I said in the beginning, literally choosing right down to every single detail.
Everything. Yeah, everything.
Your life and everything that's made up of it.
Yeah. And for us to be able to do that, I mean, what a gift, right? Yeah. What a gift to be able to choose what our experiences are going to be and then come to earth and actually live them out.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good point right there when you talk about what a gift, or I don't know if you said it or I said it, but whatever. If we look at everything in life as a gift, the difference we'll feel towards certain situations that happen.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like,
I mean, really, when you can start to look at everything that happens to you as a teaching tool and not look at it as something that just keeps happening and that you're a victim and that, oh my gosh, terrible, it's me, and da 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 da, like it, then you can start to really harness what you really come here to do, because the things that are happening to you are actually meant to educate you and move you in that path. That's what it's all happening for in the first place.
And
Like,
you've chosen those things.
you've chosen them. And the thing is you cannot help who you are. You cannot say, I'm not going to be that person tomorrow.
No, that's right.
You can't.
That's right. And the
Like, you
biggest
are
thing,
who you are.
exactly. And the biggest thing is to just to be aware, just to be aware of those things. Just being aware of those details, it'll make you look at things differently.
Yeah.
Right? And once you look at things differently, I mean, it's like, it just came to my mind. You see two people standing up and they're looking at, there's a number 6 on the floor, and one sees a 9 and one sees a 6. It's just how you look at things as to what you see. And it doesn't mean that what you see is wrong or right. It just is, right? It's the same as emotions. It doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. They just are. So it's all about awareness and how you're looking at something. And if you're looking at something that's happening in your life as a gift, you're going to have a different emotion attached to that.
Well, and you're going to have different thoughts about it.
You're going to have different thoughts. You're going to have different emotions. Everything is going to be completely different. And the outcome is going to be different because your reaction is going to be different. And when your reaction is different, you're changing karma.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and it's all about the rebalance. So when we're dealing with karma at the time of going up and doing our life reevaluation and then planning our next life regarding what's going to happen in order to balance out the karma that we did in the last life, if we can keep that as being aware of that, we can hopefully control a little bit of the negative and positive karma that we're going to create in this life.
Absolutely.
Because the next life, we're going to have to deal with this life as well as anything else that wasn't dealt with in the past.
That's right. That is so, like, I love that. It's bang on. And this is the whole thing, is the more that we work in service to others and our higher self, the more that we're able to show up and again create the external world that keeps us moving in that higher realms, and we're just keep moving upwards and upwards. And when we're doing that, we're actually bringing the planet and everybody in it up too. So Joanne is saying, when you're able to just say, what am I learning here? Even what seems to be a really crappy moment, I know I find myself of chuckle. Yeah. So it can be a funny, like, you're like,
Absolutely.
oh God, like that's what's supposed to come out of that situation. Goodness me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah. And it might be something that had happened 3 or 4 times. Why didn't I get that before? Why didn't, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It really is. It really is. Okay, so did we cover everything so far? I'm trying to see.
I'm just gonna have a quick look here and see. Yeah, it's the goal: becoming free of karma attachments, free will, accepting our, yeah. That's another thing. We kind of said that in a roundabout way. When we come to Earth and we talk about looking at things as a gift, right? So basically what we do is what our life contains, what we've chosen, we either accept our fate and we deal with it, or we curse it, right? And if we curse it, then we're coming back to do it again.
A
so
curse.
We're always
It becomes a curse.
It becomes a curse, exactly. So say, for example, I try to think of an example. Say, I don't know, you have a child. Oh, no, I don't want to use a child. You have somebody in your family that's sick and you have to look after them. Okay. How do you look at that? How do you look at it? Do you look at it as like, I had to look after my parents again? Or, damn, if they were, if they just were just healthy, I wouldn't have to do this, or whatever, a spouse or whatever, right? Or if you look at it and say, well, I'm so lucky to have this person in my life. It's just an honor for me to be able to look after them. I feel privileged. that I'm able to care for this person before she passes away or whatever. It's all in how you, that's creating your karma, right?
Absolutely.
And as long as we're aware of it, so again, it's accepting what you have to live or cursing what you have to live, that's creating your karma.
And
So
yeah, and sorry, finish what you're saying before I say.
so just being aware of what you're doing, the choices that you're making, not the choices, well, I guess the choices too, but the reactions you're having to what's happening in your life is changing karma.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I see, like, because of the work that I'm doing right now, especially, I see so many people who have things that they have struggled through and suffered through in the past. And you look at the emotional responses that they've had to those experiences. And if your emotional response is one of lower energy, so like something that causes depression, something that causes a lot of sadness and anger, judgment, shame, all of these, those are cursed emotions. That means that you're going to keep experiencing these things in as many ways, different ways as possible, until you transmute them into something higher, in a higher way of thinking, in a higher way of understanding. And that's really what the karma is working towards, is always bringing those energies up higher. And when we're bringing those energies up higher, we're also bringing other people and the world up higher with us, which is, what we're all here to do.
Yeah.
I
And you'll notice, yeah, exactly. And you'll notice that your friends change, the people that you're around will change as you raise your vibration. And sometimes you'll notice that, wow, those friends that actually had nothing to do with spirituality are now getting into it and are now raising their vibration as well. Just by being around somebody who has a higher vibration, the vibration is going to raise. Like you say, we're raising the earth, right? We're raising everything, the earth itself raising the vibration. And therefore, with the earth itself raising in vibration, the people have no choice. And when the people raise in vibration, the earth has no choice. We're all one. It's all happening. It's happening, guys.
It's happening.
It's coming on strong.
That's right. So the more that we are focusing on our higher selves and carrying out the mission of our higher selves, the more we're pulling on that light and bringing it down. And that connects to the earth. The more that we bring the earth energy and bring it upwards, that connects the earth to the light. So we're now exchanging that information between the two so that they can start to vibrate on more of a similar level.
Mm-hmm. And as we see that happening, we see the veil lifting.
Exactly. That's right.
So, and that's the exciting part, right?
It is the exciting part. I know.
That's the exciting part,
is.
because where we're heading is, it's peace. We're heading into, even though when you look at the external right now, might not seem that way, right? But darkness has to be brought into the light before, so we have to see what's happening. We have to see everything that's going on before we can actually step into it.
And this is the whole thing, is transmuting or learning how to metabolize or learning how to transfer those lower energies into higher energies. So that's what the struggle is all about. So the more that we in our generation and everybody that is going through what we're going through is learning how to do this, this is information that's going to be passed down for generations and generations and generations, so that they can experience more feelings of peace in the future.
In the future, for sure. And a good place to start is to find the peace within yourself.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the only way.
That's right. You have to find the peace within yourself in order to find the exterior, right?
That's right. You have to find the peace within yourself in order to experience the peace in the external world. As long as there is turmoil or hard emotions happening inside of you, you're creating an outside world
Exactly.
that matches that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's amazing how the mind works. I was just thinking about this the other day, is the mind will actually pick out situations in the physical world to match what you feel inside.
Absolutely.
And it's not
Absolutely.
necessarily that it's happening, but your mind will think it is because that's how it feels. It's almost like the
That's what
mind
it
has to say, oh, that's my instinct. That's what it's telling me. So that must be happening. And it's not always the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean that could be just something so very, very simple. Something is said and you take it a certain way, and that's not the way it's meant, right? But
Yeah,
that's what you take inside. But that's you inside. That's that mirror, right?
that's right. Exactly.
So it's yeah. There's so much, there's so much to learn, there's so much to review, there's so much in one lifetime that we have access to if we are just aware.
Yeah.
It's all about awareness.
And we don't have to do it alone. We have support and we have lots of beings around us all the time that are more than willing to help us if we're asking.
And that's the key, asking.
Ask. We have to ask. That's
Yeah.
right. You have
You
to
have
invite it
to.
in.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I
Yes.
think we're at
Oh,
the end here.
I think I've got everything that I had anyway.
I'm pretty sure I have everything too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So next time we are talking about, oh, this one is this, and again, it's, it's all, we've talked about it a little bit during what we've talked about the last 3 sessions, but the next time is just going to be completely on past lives.
Yeah.
So I've got an idea, and Linda and I didn't talk about this, but if you know a past life that you lived, send us a message.
Oh, yes.
Let us know
We
about
would
it.
love
If
to
you,
hear about that.
we'd love to hear it. If you've gone through a past life regression and you know a past life that you've lived, write us a little story so we can hear, we can listen to or read it. And yeah, that would be really interesting.
So Kim is saying something funny. She says, I think people are too hard on themselves. They need to forgive themselves and then will free them up. Absolutely.
We are our own worst critic.
And in past lives, in the past live episode that we're going to talk about next week, forgiveness is going to be a huge part of that process, right?
So
So
that's going to take in a lot of things.
absolutely.
Like we just go on and on anyway. So,
So Patricia
so
Callahan says, great show. Looking forward to next week.
awesome. Thank you, Patricia, for watching.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia is the one that we that does card readings. She
Oh,
was
good.
I did a shout out for Patricia a few weeks ago, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
And she started doing online readings. So yeah, that's Patricia. That's there making a couple of comments. And today, talking about shout outs, I'd like to give a shout out to a good friend of mine. Um, I met her during one of our tuning fork sessions. She does tuning fork sessions as well. She's kind of moved on. I stayed with the tuning forks. I've done a lot more with tuning forks. She's still done stuff with tuning forks as well. I'm not putting that down, but she's moved on to biomagnetic energy, I believe it's called.
Wow.
So, and she's just amazing. Her name is Sue Green, and Sue is in Hampton, New Brunswick. She's got her own little place there called Tuning In, and Sue is she's amazing. She's just amazing. So Sue does a lot of different things. She does a lot with she just got certified in biomagnetic therapy. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Oh, she's gonna squish me if she sees this. But in any case, I'm gonna post her Tuning In Facebook page so that you can all see. And Sue, yeah, she's great.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And yeah, so we said that our next week, our next class is going to, or next class, our next podcast is going to be on past lives. So we're going to focus more on the process of the past life. So how that happens. And do you have any announcements to make?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. No, right now.
We still have your sistership groups going on, right?
I do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
anybody's
I have
interested in getting in,
two sistership groups going on right now, and I need at least 8 people in order to start a third one. So, well, I would do it with 6, but 8 is probably better. And so in these sistership, they're basically circle gatherings. So it's a community of support where we meet online, and yeah, there's discussions. It's kind of like what we're doing, with just different discussions and different learning, and yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's We get very close. We get very up close and personal in the groups. So everything that goes on in the group stays in the group, kind of thing. It's really interesting. Yeah.
wonderful. That sounds beautiful.
And you have your course still going, your courses?
Yes, I do. So this is going to be my, how many times have I run it? I think it's the 6th time I've run this course, but I keep finding more people that are interested and keep joining. And so I will keep giving it as long as that's the case. So there's lots of good information. I have some people have taken it 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times. So, there's always new stuff coming out in it too.
That's it. That's it, right? And we've talked about that before, how we learn by being with you guys, right? By having people come into our courses or our gatherings or whatever, we learn as well. And it's helping. It's kind of like the spirit guides that are evolving with us, that are with us during our whole life, right?
That's right.
Kind of the same thing. We're all working together. We're all evolving as we go.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're there.
That's it. Yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I don't know how many we had tuning in today. Excuse me. But yeah, so that was great. Thank you for watching. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching as well.
That's right.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.